So, hey, Ronnie, I got you on the show finally.
Hey, Martin, good to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. So today I'm talking to Ronnie Cochran. He is, I think, a success story. And part of my goal for the show is to get the word out about real people that have come up in the skilled trades. Ronnie and I are similar backgrounds. We were on the refrigeration side. And I just thought, Ronnie had a really good story to tell. So, Ronnie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here, Martin. I've been following your podcast and your different sites there, and you got some interesting content. So glad to be on.
Awesome. That's great. It was great to have you on. Let's see. So we always start the story off with a bio, and when you sent in your information for the show, I went through it, and it was really inspiring to me because you mentioned your parents a lot and how they influenced you, and I think that's a great thing whenever I hear that. So anyway, let's share your bio, how you came up in the trades, and sort of your journey into where you made it to in your career so far.
Yeah, so that could be a very, very long story. But yeah, my parents, to answer, talk about that a little bit. They were a big part of influencing me. In my bio, I mentioned some of the organizations that I've worked for. I had the opportunity to work for public supermarkets for a number of years here in Florida, and some other organizations, Train, and of course Johnson Controls, and all of those organizations and a lot of people that mentored me definitely continued on with that spirit of just being honest, hardworking, and trustworthy. So I actually, believe it or not, as you probably saw in the bio, I started my career in high school with public supermarkets. I moved into doing warehouse work, and I kind of backtrack a little bit. My father, he was a carpenter, and that was that 80s, 90s era where college was such a big thing, right? You had to go to college, you had to get that degree, move into the business world. At least that was the influence around me at my time of life then in my early teens and 20s. So I did the college gig and made it about a year and a half, and kind of decided that wasn't for me. I continued working with doing warehouse work with Publix, and kind of woke up one day and I'm like, I don't really see the direction I want to go here necessarily. So I kind of put my feelers out there, started looking for what interests me. So I looked at getting back into school, possibly taking some college classes, getting into the business world. I looked at the medical field and several things. Funny story is I happened to be getting my air conditioner worked on for my vehicle. And the gentleman that I ran into, he did work for Publix as a refrigeration tech in-house for them. He was doing the side job for me, right, fixing my air conditioner. And we just got to chit-chatting. Well, that led me to, the old dial-up, right? It was painful to get on the web and look for things. So I got on the web and checked out what the HVAC world was about. And I soon discovered that there was no limit there, right? So I knew that I wanted more fulfillment. I knew that I wanted more opportunity. I did enjoy working with my hands growing up. We built airboats and we worked on motors, and my dad, he was in construction. So I kind of had that background already, but not professionally. I looked at the trade and it's like, well, we have mechanical, we have electrical, electronics, computer controls, we have cells, construction, hydronics, boilers, pneumatics, the thermodynamic, the science, the math, the management, and it was just fully involved. And I got to looking at the money aspect. That was kind of a big deal, right? We want to make money in our jobs. And the biggest thing for me was I needed something I could grow with. Mm-hmm. So I kind of put my time into that and got involved with the field. I started going to trade school. The funny thing with that was when I started going to a VOTEC school. Here I am, 31 years old. I got a family. I have 2 children. I have bills, responsibilities. So I kind of had to manage that as well. So when I went to the VOTEC school, you'll never believe I ran into my good friend, my classmate, Ray Finder. He teaches at our local trade school here in Lakeland, and he was my instructor.
Mm.
So that was super cool that I ran into him. So I started taking night classes, and then I decided, well, I got to get hired into this. So I stopped by a few local places, dropped off some applications, and I picked a couple of them that I was really interested in. Like I really felt like I could fit into these groups. I stopped by there every single Friday and bugged them, right? When you going to hire me kind of thing. One day I come walking in the door to United Refrigeration here in Arbondale, Florida. Mr. Gary Henderson was the owner of that company. He met me at the door that particular Friday and said, we're going to hire you today. So that was kind of how I got started, Martin.
Isn't that crazy how your life actually, the major things in your life, it always begins at a crossroad. Either you have a situation that comes into your life, like just something, like in your case, running into an air conditioning guy and just happen to talk to him. If that conversation didn't happen, where would you be today, right? And then
I may not be here.
And the same thing about, so you decided to go to vocational school, and you just happen, out of all the people, you happen to run into somebody who took interest in you. Isn't that crazy how that works out?
It was, a lot of times I feel like it was a destiny. We may not
divine intervention.
We may or may not believe in some of that, but everything that's happened is been number one because of my effort, and number two because of the people that, like you said, they took an interest in me.
Yeah. So what are you doing now? Sure, I know what you're doing, but why don't you share with the audience out there what a day in the life for Ronnie is these days? What do you got going on now?
So I am a senior chiller instructor for Johnson Controls. They're currently, we have 4 instructors for North America for the chiller group. Now we have fire and security, building automation. So we have a lot of other parts and pieces to our organization. Matter of fact, we had a big team meeting. I think we had 50 or 60 people on our meeting. So a lot of people in the training department that make that up. But our little group concentrates on our air-cooled and centrifugal chiller line. So part of that process is customer. That's external customer classes. Yeah. And then we have our internal customers, which are our own JCI employees. So we support training for both of those aspects.
Okay. Yeah, and I thought something was really unique. You didn't put it in your bio, but when you and I have been communicating back and forth, something that kind of caught my attention is that you kind of came into this job kind of feeling a little overwhelmed, and it may be like a little bit of a stretch for you. I want to highlight that a little bit. I don't know if you remember putting that in a message to me, but tell me about that. Tell me about.
I did. Now you're telling on me.
I want to know about it, because you're not alone. That because this is the kind of thing that a lot of people feel, right? You're not alone.
So I guess my aspect to that is, and there's a lot of pieces of that puzzle, but the biggest part of that is in this industry, I've had the opportunity to work with giants here. I consider them some of the smartest people. Different companies have different folks that work for them. Joe Patton, Ron Jacobs, Ron Larson. I could go on and on with the names of these heroes, these people that they came up in the trade in the time when you were an apprentice. You really were an apprentice. Like they put you with 2 or 3 journeymen and you shadowed them every day at work. You went to the good training at school, and that's kind of went away. But that was the biggest thing is, number one, I didn't go through a true apprenticeship. At that time in my life, I was at that crossroads. But to be frank with you, I had to make money. I didn't have time to put into that 5 years. So That was the negative. So when I got into this position, I realized that there was a lot of those aspects I needed to catch up on, and all these, mentors that I've worked with over the years that have this vast knowledge and are extremely knowledgeable. I just felt like I didn't have that level, and that's where I should have been as an instructor.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I didn't have the qualifications per se to what the market says I need to have, but in my mind of where I wanted to be
Mm-hmm.
was the biggest thing. So I did feel a little bit overwhelmed, to your point, and I was concerned with that. Like, how am I gonna catch up? Because I'm not the kind of person to BS anybody. I'm going to be straight and honest. If I don't know it, I'm going to tell you. And
Mm-hmm.
even today, we get mechanics in class that in one subject or another, they just have a lot more experience than me. And I'm just honest. Get up and tell us about that. If you were that mechanic and you were talking about a particular item and you knew more, we're going to let you talk in class. So my classes are kind of, yes, I lead the class for that training, but everybody has an opportunity to teach and share in the class. But that was one of my big holdups there.
You know what, man? What that is, I call that grit, is what I call that. And I don't know, I know I'm probably preaching to the choir here, Ronnie, but the fastest way to learn is to be a teacher. It really is.
It's
Yeah, because you're gonna, you've obviously been elevated to be an instructor because the people that you work for have seen these elements in you, right? That's amazing that you've been able to do that. And I've been in that situation many, many times where you just gotta make it. You just have to make it happen. And as an instructor, what's really cool is you have an opportunity to expose yourself to people that are in the trenches every day. And statistically, if you just look at it from a mathematical standpoint, they're going to know collectively, they're going to have a lot more experience than just your world, right? So they're going to ask you questions and they're going to say, well, Ronnie, what happened here? And you're like, that's a great question. I don't know.
Yeah, you're right, Martin. My personal expectations, putting the effort into it, the learning curve has maybe trying to explain this. In 2 years, I've probably gained 15 years of learning,
I,
literally. And I was talking to one of my mentors today on a team call. We're trying to get new programs loaded in the OptiView simulator, but we were working on that, and I told him, I'm like, and we'll probably get to this part, but he was a definitely one of the main catalysts for encouraging me to move here. And I told him, I said, Ron, I can't believe, as I'm learning more and more, how much I'm able to bring into my classes,
mhm.
and the knowledge that I'm able to share. And some of that knowledge is from students or technicians coming to the class and sharing that knowledge with me.
Right,
And to that point, a little sidebar there, I've gotten to where whenever somebody shares something really cool that I'm going to, a tech tip or whatever on a slide, weird experience that they came across, I put that note and I put their name behind it on my
right,
notes.
right.
So if I share that in class, I'll say, hey, this was brought to you by Martin King. We had, I want to give credit where credit's due.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, let's do a little gear switch here. So one of the things that I hear a lot about, Ronnie, is technicians. I'm speaking to technicians that are working in the field right now. So these guys, they've gone through their apprenticeship, whatever that means, depends on union, non-union, but they've been at it for a couple of years. They've learned a lot of stuff. One of the things I'm hearing a lot about these days is because of the skills gap, because there's just not enough talent coming in versus, people retiring, right? These guys are overworked. They're really overworked. And what's kind of happening is there's that natural plateau that they hit. Either it could happen late in apprenticeship or it can happen a couple of years in a journeyman. There's just kind of this is burnout factor that happens, right? So, I mean, are you hearing about that? I mean, is that something that maybe some of your students are bringing up with you, or that's something you haven't seen very much of?
Um, I think I was kind of there a little bit with
Mhm.
the particular niche that I was in our branch. Um, I was kind of burned out with what I was doing. I was looking for something different,
Mhm.
but that's a little different conversation. I think what you're talking about is just, somebody beating the bushes every day and they don't see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Mhm. That's
Um,
that's what I was referring to. Yeah.
we're having a lot of that in class, and I just encourage the guys to exactly what you're doing. Reach out to some of these younger people that they know in their personal lives. Get the word out that the HVAC trade, the sky's the limit.
Mhm.
You can do anything. And you like math, we have math. You like
Right.
science, we have science. You want to operate on the business side, we have that. You're good at talking in front of people, we have a sales opportunity.
Mhm.
So that is kind of the biggest thing. But I really don't have an answer for your question if we're talking about how to deal with that. That's very difficult, but I am
Yeah.
doing
Yeah. Yeah. It's just something that I just wanted to find out if you're kind of seeing that too.
it.
You
Yes.
know. So let's talk about. I have a program or something that I've been experimenting with. It's called the HVAC or Skilled Trade Success process. And what I've done is I've tried to distill down the elements of what makes the difference between somebody that kind of has a mediocre career in HVAC versus somebody that's really, just knocking it out of the park like you. So I'm looking at four different areas, and I want to get your feedback on these areas. So the four are technical excellence, which you're living in, like what items about technical excellence can the HVAC technician at large do to what mindsets, what activities they can do to bolster their technical life. Work ethic. So, what type of work ethic is the difference between somebody that's mediocre and somebody who does really, really well? And money management is another one. So, once you start making real money, I hear a lot of problems with people just getting out of control with their money. Their spending has a tendency to exceed their increasing money coming in. So I want to talk about that, what your feelings are. And lastly, which I think is the biggest one, is maintaining the work-life balance. So let me ask you technical excellence. Let's hit that one first because that one's home run for you. What can the HVAC technician at large do to bolster their technical excellence? What kind of mindsets, what kind of activities should they be doing?
Well, the first thing is, and I don't want to lead somebody the wrong way, but we want to be with an organization and around people that are constantly thinking best practices, whether it's safety, whether it's how we approach this machine, getting in the mindset of no, science isn't perfect necessarily, right? It grows. Learn things new every day. Neither are engineers, but they work hard, and it's a good idea to understand how they design the machine. So
Mhm.
a big part of that is self-study, applying yourself, doing the work. Post. I spent hours and hours and hours studying manuals, reading things online, trying to improve my knowledge of the trade in general, or maybe a machine that I'm working on. So it's just gaining a beyond best practices. Pick up the manual. If you went to work without the manual, then you might as well went to work without your gauges or your meter.
Mhm.
That's a huge aspect. Read the manual. I get so many people in class. Part of my homework is, especially for our air cooled equipment, read section 2. It's about 35 pages. It'll take you about 20 or 30 minutes to read it, and it gives you a good general description of all the major components in the machine.
Section two,
So
section two of what?
just a manual.
The manual. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the manual, just read the general description
Mhm.
of the components, and they'll give you a general operation of how they work,
Mhm.
because everybody refrigeration is refrigeration. It's all going to absorb heat and reject heat at the end of the day. But how we're getting from A to Z may be different from manufacturer to manufacturer. So we got to understand those processes within the machine. And the way to do that is read the manual that the engineers wrote after the design of the machine.
So if I had to boil that down even more, I think what you're getting at is sort of a mindset, right? Like a curiosity mindset is what I would distill that to.
I think that's a good short answer. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Get your mind right. Apply yourself. Get into books and work with folks in the industry that's relatable to that particular piece of equipment you're working on.
What's the best way to develop like a mentor relationship like you did? Like what's the secret sauce? Like you mentioned in your comments in your bio, about you had these mentors come into your life. How did that happen? I mean, some of it is luck, obviously, but what were some tricks to maybe find or seek out mentors? How would somebody go about doing that?
The first thing is be reliable and be trustworthy. Those would be two key things. Show up with the attitude to work. Maybe you don't want to carry all the refrigerant bottles up on the roof by yourself that day,
Right.
But yeah, and I was a little older when I got into the trade, so I had already excelled at one career path and kind of made it to a mid-level where I was. So it was a bit of humble pie for me, right? Stepping back and doing those tasks that maybe an apprentice would be doing, or somebody younger in the field. Even though I was only 10 years younger, it's still, from my experience in life, it was a step back. So it's a bit of humble pie there. Do those things that your mentor is needing for you to do. May not even be asking you to do. Ask questions, get involved, not to the point where you're distracting them, but to let them know you're interested. Most of the time when you get involved at that level and they see, oh, hey, we're doing this procedure. I read over this last night. I got most of it down. Can you show me these parts and these pieces to this particular job that we're doing? Or even just having a phone conversation. Hey, I'm doing this job. I read this. I don't understand all of this. When they see that you're applying yourself, I guess is the one word, apply yourself. And that's going to go a long, long way with people.
Hey guys, quick announcement. If you have not stopped into our website at skilltraderescue.com, please do that. On the home page here, you will see that we have the Join the Movement email list. If you haven't signed up, please consider doing that. We have some amazing guests lined up for the podcast. I'm going to be getting the stories out of successful technicians and business owners in skilled trades. These are not just HVAC people. These are going to be from across the skilled trade spectrum. And my hope is that I'm going to be able to draw out of these people the things that have worked in their careers amazingly well, and the things that if they had a chance to talk to their younger self, what they would tell them not to do. So I want to share all that stuff with you. And if you sign up, you're going to be the first to know when we drop those new podcast episodes. Also, coming soon, we have the BEST workshop. It's a 5-day automated email workshop. However, you're going to give content to us through that workshop. You're going to get one-on-one feedback from our instructors, and we're looking to better your career. I've been teaching the BEST process for many, many years, about 2 decades, one-on-one, and I'm going to be trying to do that to the masses through this workshop. It's totally free. All you got to do is sign up, and as soon as you do that, you'll get alerts on your email as soon as these new podcasts come in, as well as the BEST workshop. So I hope you check it out. I will put a link to the website on the show notes for this episode today, so check it out. What you did right there, Ronnie, is you covered 2 things at once. You covered technical excellence. Yeah, you covered technical excellence, right? And then you jumped seamlessly, in my opinion, over to work ethic. That's really basically what I'm hearing you say is it has to do with the attitude. And I I'm 100% behind that. If the attitude's right, in my opinion, an attitude comes out of a solid work ethic. Is these people with knowledge? This is what I found out in the trades. It's not everybody's like this, but I'd say in the last decade or so, even the old timers are knowing, wow, there's just not enough people interested in this trade. So I think there's an underlying current of people with knowledge who, if they're seeking out people that have good work ethic, and they'll want to share that information on how to make these people technically better, right?
Absolutely. That, and that kind of piggybacks on the beginning of our conversation is, where was that built for me?
Yeah.
That was from my upbringing. And then that was continued to be developed, early in my career with some of the organizations that I worked with and being around these people. And I wasn't always pleasant, I'm sure, when I was younger. And I'm sure that I probably did get an attitude sometimes, but the persistence of showing up every day, being respectful, having that work ethic, and then, like you said, the other side, the technical side, applying myself in that. So when we did have those opportunities, people were ready to deliver that and help me out.
Mm-hmm. What organizations do you recommend that would be, rich environments for the new technician to get involved in order to show them their work ethic? Let's say they have that work ethic already worked out. What organizations would you recommend that these technicians join in order to expose themselves to people that would appreciate that work ethic and be willing to share knowledge?
Are you talking about as a job or career?
Yeah.
Like, I want to go work for this company.
Yeah, well, maybe, I guess, let's say you have I'm trying to paint a scenario here because there's a lot of these guys out there. Let's say you got a technician that, I'm speaking to somebody who's working for a smaller company, medium-sized company, and the only people they see all day is they see people once in a while in a supply house, which is less and less nowadays because, the contractor's not making a lot of money having them run the supply house, and they see their customers. How could that technician widen their aperture, if you will, and be exposed to more people like you that can help mentor them? Like, what's the best pathway, whether it be through a trade association? Any ideas?
It comes to mind. Definitely, the vocational schools would be a strong avenue if you're still in that stage of your career. Certainly, apprenticeship programs. You're going to get exposure to technicians from a lot of different places, and people talk. It's like, hey, this company's really great. We have a safety meeting once a month. They're sending us to at least 3 trainings a year. I get to work on, they let me go out and help on jobs. The market is really kind of backing up. I'm going to fumble around on this because I don't really have an answer. That's a difficult question. But, you're going to find that companies need people to go put out the fire.
Right.
And that's what technicians find themselves in a lot of times. So when you're involved in these different chat rooms, they get involved with a person like you. They build these. Now we have these social organizations over our computer, which is huge. You have HVAC Talk. That's a good organization. I don't know how much they police, but the technicians are pretty plain spoken there, So just things that are social in nature, whether it's training classes, a training institution, apprenticeship, vocational school. And then it's finding that company that fits you. People that are going to invest in you and spend that time with you, so you have those avenues. And believe it or not all companies are that way. I was very lucky with United Refrigeration. They went through the gamut when we did maintenance. Subcool, superheat, discharge superheat, meg the motor, check our current draws, all those things. Check your caps. They had a good list of everything that you were supposed to do. Use your, check your airflows. Everything. So that gave me a great base as far as being a technician. And then I had that camaraderie. Every Friday we would meet. Every Friday we'd get there 30 minutes early. And it was just a small meeting. any pains or questions. So get with the right organization. If the company's not really feeding you in that level, and that's where you need to be fed, you probably need to look at something else. And you can use your network that you're building. So build that
Right.
network.
Yeah, there's so many ways nowadays to connect with people. You know, I was a HVAC contractor years ago before I got into manufacturing, and I was always looking. I had a pretty big shop, and I was always looking for that guy, that one guy that, like, I'll tell you one that used to just get me. I almost had a tear running down my cheek every time I heard this. I'd have one of my techs, and I had a couple of these that would do this. They'd say, "Hey, boss, do you think maybe I can get off work early on Thursday because United Refrigeration has somebody coming in from Robert Shaw to talk about gas valves or something like that. I really want to go." Right? And that's like, whoa, who are you? You know? So connecting up with stuff going on at wholesalers, a lot of times they have stuff going on, you know? So
Absolutely. And that was I guess maybe I kind of had the gift for gab, and I was always pretty cool with just talking to people. So that might have been, and some folks may not have that, but you can still, from your attitude and your presence, just generally wanting to learn and just being a good, trustworthy person, you can still build those avenues, in person. And then we talked about the social aspect as well with the online stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about real briefly. One of the other things that I have a lot of technicians get challenged with is money management. And I know you're not a money manager, but you're living life, right? And one of the things that the way it works on my pyramid is you have work-life balance at the top, money management. Those two at the top, the technical excellence and work ethic, that stuff, that's important. But the two at the top, money management, the ability to be smart with your money, can actually feed into problems on work-life balance, and vice versa, right? And I just give me your opinion about the importance of educating yourself on managing money when you're starting to make good money in the trades.
So this is from my dad's playbook. You can't borrow your way out of debt, son.
Right.
That's kind of the thing. So a lot of this goes back to my parents, how it's if you get on the kind of Dave Ramsey, if anybody's ever listened to him, you don't have to necessarily live your life verbatim towards that, but he's got a lot of good points, and a lot of his points I can reflect back on how I was brought up. So be mindful, don't pay for stuff that you haven't made the money for yet if you don't necessarily need it. Be smart about it. You may not necessarily need that new car. You may just want that new car.
Right.
It could be a need, though. If it's a safety issue, reliability issue, you need one good car at the house, and you got to weigh all those things out. So it can be, money management is, wow, that's a big subject. And I would say just be careful with where you're at, and don't spend beyond your means.
Okay, that's good. That's good advice. Yeah, and one of the unique things that is the media totally misses this about skilled trades. But one of the amazing things about this is you take somebody right out of high school, and they know, like me, was my situation. Is I knew right out of high school I was not a college guy. I was not. So anyway, the difference between the college path and the skilled trades path is that the money in skilled trades comes much, much faster, right? So, you decide you're going to go to work in the skilled trades and you get really good at it. Your income trajectory goes way up really fast. And you tend to have little to no debt because you're working while you're going to school a lot of times. And where a lot of guys get off the rails a little bit is, they're been working maybe little side jobs in high school or something like that, and they're making minimum wage or whatever that job is, and they go into skilled trades. And I've seen guys, they go from 20,000 a year, within 4 or 5 years they're making six figures, but they're wanting to spend seven figures.
Yeah, that's definitely something that should be maybe thought about bringing into as part of our vocational and apprenticeship programs. We
Yeah.
should maybe, because not to change things around, but they're been talking more and more about introducing a finance curriculum for
Mhm.
high school graduates.
I think that's
So
smart.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm very lucky that my parents instilled all these things into me, but we have so many young people that they didn't have that opportunity for one
Mhm.
reason or another.
Yeah.
So definitely something that needs to be talked about.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. So let's jump up the ladder a little bit. I want to talk about work-life balance. This one it's one of the things that can derail somebody's career pretty quickly. If work-life balance gets out of whack, especially if you're married or you have a significant other, and you're not paying attention to your relationships that are important. How do technicians maintain work-life balance while they're so busy these days? What's the trick? Any ideas on that?
I can only speak from my experiences. I wouldn't even begin, because there's so many caveats to a person's life. But
Mhm.
If my playbook, somebody can take one little part of it. So kind of what happened to me is I transitioned into at some early on in my HVAC career into supermarket refrigeration. Absolutely fell in love with it. That's hands down probably top two, maybe three jobs that I've ever done in the trade. The problem with that, it was unbelievably demanding. I wouldn't necessarily say that it was hurting my personal life, other than it was hurting me because I wasn't spending the time. Now, I imagine if I carried this out 8, 9, 12, 15 years, I would have seen a dramatic difference
Mhm.
in how my children are raised and my personal life. But I kind of cut it off pretty quick. I did a few years at it, made some good money working overtime, and I just kind of woke up one day and I'm like, I really love doing this, but I want to find an aspect of the trade that the company's robust enough, and we have the opportunity to get this vacation time, to have some weekends, definitely be at home at night with my family. So that was a personal decision that I made to move out of that role and look at other aspects. In a
Mhm.
lot of ways, I kind of had to backtrack again, so then I got to backtrack again, kind of start over in the commercial side of HVAC. But it was a good, in hindsight, it was a good move for me.
Do you think, for a technician out there, do you think a bigger company or a smaller company, is there a trending as far as, do bigger companies have better respect or, understanding of work-life balance versus smaller companies, or it just depends on the company?
I think it just depends on the company. I mean, for me, believe it or not, being right here in Polk County, Florida, you would think that I would be attracted and work well with a small company.
Uh-huh.
That is as far from the truth as it can be. I work well. Yeah, and I'm a gray area guy, right? But I work well with good, solid structure.
Mhm.
That's just how, and I kind of learned this later on about myself. I didn't know it right away.
Yeah.
So that worked well for me, growing with bigger companies. But I have a tremendous amount of professional friends that they like the smaller companies better. That's a better fit for them. So
Yeah.
that's an individual preference there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. Hey guys, I have an exciting announcement. We just recently made some updates to our 3 most popular online courses at processchilleracademy.com. If you're a technician that's looking to improve your skills a little bit, maybe get some specialized training to be of more value to your customers and your employer, or if you are an employer, a contractor that is looking to augment your existing in-house training with online training that can be accessible from any device, this is a really great opportunity. Just go to processchilleracademy.com, just scroll down on the homepage and you will see the course area. If you go into the course page, you will see that we are currently, for a limited time, we have a promo code of Chiller Pro that will save you 25% on any one of these courses. So I hope you check it out, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in class. One of the things I wanted to segue over into, Ronnie, is wages. I put a bunch of information out. Matter of fact, I've got some podcasts out on this, and one of the things that has been really eye-opening for me, let me see if I can pull this up real quick. You've heard of the Bureau, huh?
Getting rid of my Hoover Dam picture.
Oh. What I'm looking for here is I'm looking for what's going on here. Yeah, we'll have to cut this part out, I guess. There we go. Sometimes my computer doesn't work right.
Trust me, I do these virtual classes every week. I understand.
Yeah, sometimes they're just it's just, yeah. Computers, they don't have a play. They're good play toys, but they have no place in business. So what I'm looking for here is I'm looking for the there we go. Finally got to it. The Bureau of Labor Statistics. These guys, it's so interesting about the data that is coming out, and there we go. So I don't know if you can see my screen here. What I'm looking at here, this is Bureau of Labor Statistics. This has to do with wage projections and stuff. And one of the things that I find is so interesting about this is that they lump together heating, air conditioning, and refrigeration. Okay, fine, but they lump together mechanics and installers in one lump. And what blows my mind here is the numbers. So the mean wage for a journeyman HVAC technicians, according to this, is $25.68 per hour, right? What's your opinion of that? Is that real?
No, there's no. Listen, I got into the trade, like I say, 20 some odd years ago, and I was talking to a gentleman that owned his own business, and I said, I want to be at $24 an hour in 3 years.
Right.
And he laughed at me. He laughed at me back then. There's no way. It's impossible. Well, I was making $28 an hour in 3 years.
Right.
You know, so that and you hear, residential companies, they're paying very well.
Mm-hmm.
And it depends on if you're with a bigger company. Sales opportunities come into that when you're in the field, a lot of things. But if you were to put all that together, I would say that, you're probably looking, even as a light commercial residential technician, if you're doing well and you're knowledgeable, you're with a decent company, I wouldn't see a problem with somewhere between 60 to 80.
Okay.
$1,000 a year. So
yeah, that's kind of what the reason why I wanted to kind of delve into that question, Ronnie, is that the Bureau of Labor Statistics, we're facing a headwind. Skilled trades in general, I don't care if it's HVAC, plumber, doesn't matter what it is. We're facing a big headwind in that the colleges, high school counselors, they're all quoting the BLS data, and BLS, I'm not saying it's corrupt. I'm just saying that they're collecting a lot of data. I mean, from a gazillion different labor codes, and they're throwing it in there, and that's fine. That's okay. But what the concern is that we're fighting the mindset of, well, if nothing else works out, you can always go ahead and be a plumber or an HVAC guy. It's a fallback. And the argument that I'm making is we got to get the word out that, people are making real money in skilled trades. They just are.
It's amazing, Martin. The opportunity for financial security, real financial security, and let's back that up one step. One of my big mindsets when I got into this trade is nobody's ever going to be able to take food off of my plate, off of my table.
Right.
And even if at the end of the day I have to go to CamTech or one of these schools to get my license, if I know how to do my trade, I'm going to be able to make a living.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one of the biggest things that is missed is the freedom in this industry because you have a skilled trade. You're always going to be needed. And the money part, it does seem a little incorrect.
Yeah. Well, and that's the headwind we're facing. I mean, until we get the word out about the fact that there's real opportunities in skilled trades. And again, I'm not talking about HVAC. And listen, I'm not banging on college. I'm not. If you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, I don't care what the commercial says. If you stay at Motel 6 last night, you're not going to be a brain surgeon. That's just how it is, right? You're going to have to go to college for that. But what I'm stuck on, and I'm trying to get the word out about is these young folks. They're talking to their parents junior year, sophomore year, if they're depending on the district they're in. They're talking to their parents, and their parents saying, "Oh yeah, you got to go to college. You got to go." But the perspective is that the parents are thinking about college in their world, right? When they went to college, but it's very different now. The cost of college has always gone up way faster than the cost of living, right? So I think it's prime time for us to get the word out and say, hey, there's a really good opportunity here, and it's not just a consolation prize.
So, Martin, that's a great talking point for me because, as I said earlier, I was, my parents were from that generation where college was extremely valuable, and a lot of people my age that embarked on that were very successful, during that time period because they got a degree. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't. I graduated in 1989. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't long after that college degree market started getting extremely oversaturated.
Right.
So like you said, it's a much, much different conversation. So fast forward to, when my children got the age of going to college, my thing was, if you're going to go to college, you need to be career specific. Mm-hmm. Otherwise you need to find a skilled trade. Mm-hmm. Those were there was no in between for that. And mm-hmm. both of those worked. A lot of times kids go, these young people, kids, we call them kids, right? But they are.
We can say that when we're old, we can say they're all kids.
But college is a good experience, just like the military is a good experience. If you don't really have a place to go, but if you have a sense of working with your hands, working with people, doing things of that nature, then the trades are a wonderful place, and it's not a dead end. That's the biggest thing that parents need to understand when they're coaching their children. Mm-hmm. Is it's like I told my son, go to college, or why don't you look at being a lineman? Well, guess what? Mm-hmm. He did college for a year and a half, about like I did. He's in the Air Force now as a lineman with the U.S. Air Force.
Yeah.
Electrical lineman. So that was a great place to go for him. And he is forever going to be successful. Nobody's ever going to take food off of his table.
Right. Well, the other thing too that has changed since the college experience that a lot of the parents may remember is that the digital age. artificial intelligence, all these things that are happening right now today have created a big vulnerability for many of these college degrees. For example, you go to college, you want to be a game designer. That's what a lot of the young folks are talking about now. I want to design the next app. I want to be a coder. They're always pushing that. And what's getting missed is that in the U.S., since we're a capitalistic society, the colleges, you're going to have to go into debt. Either the parents or the kids, and the average debt is about $30,000. And a lot of the other countries, they pay for most of, especially the socialized countries, they pay for most of the kids' education. So you get a guy or gal that is graduating with a graphics arts degree, right, or a computer science degree. They get out, and now they're competing with people in other countries that didn't have to pay for most or all of their education, who are willing to work for a lot less. So they just got outsourced, right? And it's just a tough situation. Whereas skilled trades, obviously I'm a big proponent of it. You get a technician that works on a 500-ton chiller, that's not getting outsourced.
Yeah, they're calling you up, and you're going to eat that week. I guarantee it, because they're going to have their chiller working.
Yeah, that's interesting. Cool.
And the big piece of that puzzle is people don't know what they don't know. Mm-hmm. And that's all of us, whether we're 90 years old or 10 years old, right? We don't know what we don't know. And we have this, I think that our society has this perception about the trades because for so many years it was kind of squished down underneath the college level opportunities, and it's what you went to when you couldn't make it in college, right? I can tell you that the math and science that we do at my level is definitely at some level entry level college work, for sure.
Yeah, and what's interesting, what I found out, because I interview my share of technicians out there too, and I'm trying to get more. By the way, any of you folks listening to this podcast, if you want to get on here, like I got Ronnie in here and tell your story, I want to hear it. But what is real interesting is the ones that have actually went way over the top, just strictly talking about income, are the ones that have figured out a lane. Like for example, you're into instruction, right? You pick the lane, right? You're doing teaching. Some other person may really enjoy building automation, right? Some other people might really enjoy PLC programming. In other words, you're still in the HVAC trade, but maybe you're working for a manufacturer and you're programming their PLCs. Well, Johnson Controls, for example, you guys make a whole line, right, of building automation controls, right? So, you could go from an HVAC guy who understands the sequence of operation of a chiller or an air conditioner, doesn't matter what it is, and apply that knowledge and strong work ethic and all that stuff to writing PLC code, right? And it boggles. There's so many directions, like you say. Basically, I'm saying the same thing you did.
Well, and that's the reinforcement that we need. It's not just this.
Right.
We're not just doing this. We're doing a lot more. And there, especially with a company like Johnson Controls or some of your other bigger manufacturers, they have so many opportunities and so many avenues to go just because you went to school and you learned basic electrical and the refrigerant cycle. Mm-hmm. Those two pieces right there can open up a lifetime, 10 lifetimes of doors.
Right.
You can't live long enough to do all the possibilities in this trade.
Yeah. Very good. Well, man, I can't believe we've been at this for a little bit. So Ronnie, you work for Johnson. What if if a technician wanted to reach out to you, are you active on LinkedIn and has questions for you or anything like that? I don't know if you can do that or not, but if somebody has a question for you about chiller training or Johnson Controls or whatever, how do they get in touch with you?
Absolutely. If somebody wanted to hit me up on LinkedIn, I do pop in there about once a week and check my messages. They can connect there. Do want to warn people, I strongly discourage us from tech support because that can go off on a different tangent. But if you have some training needs for your organization or personally, and you want to have a conversation, certainly hit me up on LinkedIn and I'll be happy to reach out to you.
You don't want to give out your home phone number, Ronnie? What's the matter with you?
Yeah, it's 00000.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really great. Ronnie, thank you so much for being part of the show, and I can't thank you enough. It's been very interesting, and I know that what you have to say is going to inspire a lot of guys out there. Any last things you want to say?
No, I mean, just hang in there. If you're thinking about the trade, again, we beat this one to death, but it's a world of opportunity. And keep your head up, keep applying yourself. So, Martin, thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to hearing more of your podcast.
So that is it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I very much look forward to continuing to connect with you. Please don't hesitate to send me messages on LinkedIn. I'm on there all the time. Or you can reach out to me on my email. I'm at mking@processchilleracademy.com. And until next week, when I give you the next installment, I wish you a great week, and I will connect up with you again soon. Take care now. Bye-bye.